When my wife looked me straight in the eye and said, "I don't need to meet your needs," I felt something inside me quietly snap. No yelling, no slamming doors. Just a hollow certainty that our marriage was over, long before I ever walked away. But instead of screaming or begging, I did something she never expected. I simply stopped showing up for her, the way she'd stopped showing up for me. And that silence? It was the loudest thing she'd ever heard. Ethan Carter never thought he'd watch his marriage end over something as trivial as a dinner invitation. But that's exactly how it started, on a Tuesday evening in early fall. He had been standing near the kitchen counter, scrolling through old text messages from college friends he hadn't seen in over a decade. They were finally in town for one night, and he'd been looking forward to introducing Megan to them. He kept his voice light when he spoke. "Think you could move that late client on Thursday? We could grab dinner with Matt and Tessa. It's been years." Megan didn't look up. She was folding laundry in quick, practiced motions, her phone propped against a bottle of detergent, streaming a podcast about marketing trends. Ethan waited for the sigh, the half-hearted apology, maybe even the exasperated roll of her eyes. He was ready for all of it. But nothing prepared him for what she actually said. "I don't need to meet your needs." Her tone was calm, almost casual, as if she were mentioning the weather. She didn't glance his way or pause to soften the blow. She just kept pairing socks. Ethan's mind went blank. For a few seconds, he genuinely wondered if he'd misheard her. But when he looked at her face, focused, indifferent, he knew she meant every word. He tried to reply, but the only thing that came out was a hollow, "Okay." The conversation ended before it even began. Megan picked up the folded laundry and walked down the hall. She didn't look back. Later that night, they lay in bed, both wide awake but pretending otherwise. For years, he'd always been the one to bridge the gap, to reach for her hand in the dark, to ask if she was okay, to remind her that whatever was wrong, they could fix it together. But tonight, that impulse was gone. Not dulled, gone. Ethan stared at the ceiling. The blue digits on the alarm clock glowed quietly, counting down the hours until morning. He wondered if she felt the same vacancy, if she had any sense of the damage she'd done by treating his hope like an inconvenience. He thought back to when it had started. Maybe it was the promotion she'd fought so hard to get, the one that made her phone an extra limb she never set aside. Or maybe it was even earlier, when their conversations shrank to calendar updates and grocery lists. A slow drift, easy to ignore in the moment. For a while, he convinced himself it was just a phase. Every marriage has seasons. Some are busy, some are distant, but eventually the warmth returns. Doesn't it? He'd believed that until tonight. Lying there, Ethan realized he'd spent years contorting himself into someone smaller so she wouldn't feel burdened. He had told himself it was love. Now he wondered if it had just been fear that if he stopped trying so hard, she'd leave. And then came the deeper, more unsettling thought. Maybe she'd already left, in every way that mattered. The next morning, Ethan got up before sunrise. He made coffee, packed his laptop, and drove to work in silence. Megan was still in bed when he left. He paused in the doorway, waiting for some flicker of recognition or regret, but she didn't stir. At a red light downtown, he opened the group chat with his old friends and typed a message canceling dinner. "Something came up," he wrote. A safe lie. He didn't want to explain. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Meetings, emails, a performance review he barely heard. But under it all, her words pulsed like a bruise. "I don't need to meet your needs." Driving home that night, he tried to picture their marriage from the outside. To anyone watching, they looked fine. Two professionals with a nice house, steady jobs, no visible chaos. But he knew better. He knew the difference between a partnership and a contract. And contracts don't care about feelings. When he walked in, Megan was in her office on a video call. She lifted a hand in a brief wave, then went back to her screen. No questions about his day. No mention of the dinner he'd tried to plan. Ethan set his keys on the counter. For the first time in years, he didn't feel the urge to fill the silence between them. He made himself a simple dinner and ate alone. While he rinsed his plate, he caught himself thinking how absurd it was, How a single sentence could pull the bottom out of everything he'd spent over a decade building. He didn't feel angry. Anger required energy. What he felt was something closer to resignation. Before bed, he stood at the doorway to her office again, watching her work. She looked tired, absorbed, distant, and for a moment he almost felt sorry for her. Sorry that she couldn't see what was slipping away, right in front of her. But then he remembered her voice, flat and unbothered. "I don't need to meet your needs." He turned off the hall light without saying goodnight. In that moment, he made a quiet decision. He wouldn't fight for something she no longer valued. No yelling, no ultimatums. Just a shift so subtle she wouldn't even feel it, until the day she reached for him and found no one waiting. Ethan didn't announce anything. He didn't tell Megan he was pulling back or declare that things would change. Instead, he let her words stand on their own. If she felt no responsibility for him, then he wouldn't shoulder the invisible weight of holding them together. On Wednesday, Megan texted him around noon. "Can you pick up my dry cleaning after work? Should be ready." He looked at the message a long time before replying. Sure. But when the workday ended, he drove straight home. He reheated leftover pasta, sorted through his email, and read until he felt tired enough to sleep. The next morning, Megan walked into the kitchen with her bag slung over one shoulder. "Did you get my coat?" she asked, rifling through receipts on the counter. Ethan didn't look up. "No." She paused, waiting for an explanation. When none came, she slowly nodded and walked out. He heard the front door close a little harder than usual. The first small disruption. That weekend, she spent most of Saturday at a strategy retreat her company was hosting. Ethan mowed the yard and fixed a loose cabinet door. Around 8, he made a simple dinner for himself and ate at the kitchen table alone. Megan came home later, keys jangling as she stepped inside. She set her purse down and opened the fridge, scanning the shelves. "No leftovers?" she asked. "I didn't know when you'd be back," Ethan said without turning. "I texted you," she pointed out. He shrugged. "Maybe you did." She didn't press it. She pulled out yogurt and a banana and ate standing at the counter. It was a quiet evening, but a different kind of quiet. Not tense, just vacant. A few days later, Ethan got home early. Megan was on the couch scrolling through her phone. She looked up briefly, as if trying to decide whether to speak. Finally, she asked, "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," he said. "You've been different lately." He nodded. "Probably." When she didn't ask more, he went upstairs. He wasn't trying to punish her. He wasn't trying to start a fight. He was simply tired of pretending nothing had changed. 2 weeks passed in small, deliberate omissions. He stopped reminding her of appointments. She missed her dental cleaning and blamed a glitch in her calendar. He didn't correct her. She forgot to pay the electric bill on time. When the late notice arrived, she looked at him like she expected him to handle it. He didn't offer. Megan began to notice. On a Wednesday evening, she walked into his office holding the mail. "Did you see this?" she asked, holding up the late notice. "I did," Ethan said. "Why didn't you take care of it?" "It's your account," he replied evenly. Her expression tightened. She dropped the envelope on the desk and left without another word. He knew she was frustrated. He also knew she didn't understand what was happening. The night before her birthday, he lay awake, thinking about all the years he'd tried to hold the center. Every birthday he planned something special. Even in the worst seasons, he never forgot. He'd spent hours choosing the right gifts, writing cards, arranging dinners. This year, he decided he would not. The morning of her birthday, he got up early. He went for a run, showered, and made himself breakfast. Megan walked into the kitchen in her robe, glancing around the counters, the table, the refrigerator door. There was nothing waiting for her. No card, no flowers, no sign he'd even remembered. She cleared her throat. "You forget something?" He looked up from his coffee. "No, I don't think so. It's my birthday," she said slowly, as if coaxing him to remember. "Right?" Ethan replied. "Happy birthday." He didn't get up. He didn't offer more. She stared at him a long time, her mouth opening as if she'd say something else. Instead, she turned and walked out. Later that day, he heard her on the phone in the living room. Her voice was strained, almost thin. "I don't know what's going on," she said to her sister. "He's different. Cold. Like he's here but not really here." A pause. "No, he's not seeing anyone else. It's not that. He just doesn't do anything for me anymore." Ethan sat on the stairs, listening. He wasn't proud of it, but he didn't move. Another pause. "Maybe I've been focused on work," Megan admitted. "But it's like he's checked out." That evening, she made dinner. Stir-fry, his favorite. She set the table with more care than he'd seen in months. When he walked into the kitchen, he raised an eyebrow. "What's all this?" "I wanted to do something nice," she said. "It looks good," he replied, sitting down. They ate mostly in silence. She kept glancing at him, waiting, maybe for a thank you or a smile or a sign that he would thaw. He finished his meal, stood, and washed his plate without comment. 10 minutes later, she followed him into the living room. She sat beside him, close enough to touch but not touching. "You've been different," she said quietly. "You think so? You used to care," she whispered. He turned to look at her, his face neutral. "I used to think you did too." That landed harder than any accusation. Her eyes widened, and she looked away. She didn't try to argue. She didn't deny it. She just sat there, breathing unsteadily, as if realizing she'd been waiting for this moment to pass, and it wasn't passing. That night, she reached for him under the covers, her hand brushing against his. He didn't pull away, but he didn't move closer either. For the first time, he knew she felt it. The emptiness she'd spent years pretending wasn't real. 3 weeks after Megan's birthday, Ethan noticed she was finally starting to see the reality he'd accepted long before she did. Her movements around the house had a tentative quality, like she was waiting for a reaction she couldn't name. But Ethan no longer felt the urge to reassure her. He came home one evening to find Megan sitting at the dining table with her laptop open, receipts and bills spread out. She looked up as he walked in. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice careful. He nodded, setting his keys down. "About what?" She closed the laptop slowly. "About us." Ethan remained standing. "Okay." Megan pressed her lips together. "I feel like you're punishing me." He met her gaze. "I'm not." "Then what is this? You barely speak to me. You don't help with anything anymore. You don't—" She broke off, shaking her head. "You don't seem to care." "I care," he said calmly. "Just not the way I used to." Her jaw tightened. "So this is revenge?" "No." He took a breath. "It's clarity." Megan's eyes searched his. "Clarity about what?" "About who we are," Ethan replied. "About what you said to me." Her shoulders slumped, but her voice stayed defensive. "I was trying to set boundaries." "I know," he said. "And I heard you. You said you didn't feel responsible for my needs." "That's not fair," she shot back, her voice rising. "You're twisting what I meant." "No," Ethan said evenly. "For once, I'm not twisting anything. I'm taking you at your word." She closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, she looked exhausted. "So that's it? You're done?" "I don't know," Ethan admitted. "But I'm done pretending everything's fine." She drew in a slow breath, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. "You used to fight for us. You always said marriage was about staying even when it was hard." "It is," he agreed. "But it's not about being invisible." Silence fell between them. That night, Megan tried again. She came into the bedroom while he was reading. She sat on the edge of the bed and reached out, her hand brushing his arm. "Ethan, I don't want to lose you." He looked at her hand but didn't move. "I know." "Then help me understand what you need," she whispered. He set the book aside and finally met her eyes. "I needed you to care before you were scared." Her expression flickered. "I didn't realize it was this bad." "You didn't want to," he said quietly. The next day, she started trying in ways she hadn't in years. She made him breakfast before work. She texted to ask how his day was going. She came home early and suggested they go for a walk. He appreciated the effort, but he couldn't make himself respond the way she hoped. It felt too late, like she was trying to mend something she only valued because it was slipping away. On Friday evening, Megan's best friend Amanda stopped by. Ethan was in the garage when he heard their voices drifting through the open window. "You look terrible," Amanda said bluntly. "I don't know what to do," Megan replied. "He's just gone, like emotionally vacant." "You pushed him," Amanda said without much sympathy. "You've been telling everyone how independent you are. Maybe he finally believed you." Megan's voice broke. "I thought he'd always be there." Amanda sighed. "Well, he's still here, but it sounds like he's finally done begging for scraps." Ethan stayed in the garage until Amanda left. He didn't want Megan to know he'd overheard. That night, she didn't come to bed right away. He found her in the living room scrolling through photos on her phone. He recognized the pictures, vacations, anniversaries, old birthdays. She looked up when she realized he was watching. "Remember this?" she asked, turning the screen so he could see. "Of course," Ethan said. "We were happy," she whispered. He nodded. "Sometimes." She swallowed hard. "I miss that." He didn't answer. The following evening, Megan cooked a full dinner, his favorite again. Chicken marsala, roasted potatoes, a bottle of wine already opened. She even put on music, something soft in the background. When he sat down, she tried to smile. "Thought I'd surprise you." "You did," he said, picking up his fork. They ate in near silence. Halfway through, she set down her utensils. "Do you miss us?" Ethan didn't look up. "I don't know." "That's not an answer," she said quietly. "It's the only honest one I have." Her voice trembled. "I'm trying." "I can see that," he replied. "But trying feels different when you only do it because you're afraid." Her eyes brimmed with tears she didn't bother to wipe away. "You're not giving me anything to work with," she said. "I gave you years," Ethan said, his voice low but steady. "Years of asking for connection. Years of being told I was too much." Her shoulders dropped. "I was selfish. I didn't realize how far you'd gone." "I know," he said simply. They sat there, neither moving. After a moment, she reached across the table, her hand hovering over his. He didn't pull away, but he didn't meet her halfway either. Her fingers trembled. "I want to fix this." Ethan studied her face for a long time. "You want to fix the feeling, but you don't want to look at why it's broken." She drew in a shaky breath. "Then tell me." He set his fork down. "I needed to matter before you were afraid of losing me." Megan closed her eyes, and for the first time he saw genuine regret. Not just guilt, but a dawning awareness of the cost of her choices. But it didn't change the reality he'd come to accept. That night he slept in the guest room. She didn't follow. And for the first time in a long time, Ethan felt something close to peace. The days after Ethan moved to the guest room settled into an uneasy rhythm. Megan tried to act like nothing had shifted, but he could see the tension in her every movement. She lingered near him more often, asked questions she never used to, tried to close a gap that felt too wide to cross. One evening, she stood in the doorway as he folded a stack of clean towels. "Do you hate me?" she asked. He didn't look up right away. When he did, his expression was calm. "No." She nodded slowly, almost in relief. "But I stopped needing you," he added. Her face tightened. She opened her mouth, then closed it again, as if realizing there was nothing she could say to soften that truth. After that night, she started small attempts at repair, gestures that might have mattered once but now felt strangely performative. She made dinner every evening, sometimes waiting until he came home so they could eat together. She left coffee by his laptop in the mornings, the way he used to for her. She even suggested counseling, though her voice trembled when she said it. Ethan didn't dismiss her efforts. He didn't mock or resent them, but he also didn't pretend they erased years of disregard. On a Tuesday, she came home from work early, which was unusual. He was rinsing his coffee mug when she walked in, set her bag down, and stood there without speaking. "We need to talk," she finally said. He dried his hands and turned to face her. "Okay." Megan crossed her arms, her posture defensive. "I can't keep living like this." "I know," Ethan said evenly. "You're here." but it's like you're already gone. He didn't deny it. She took a shaky breath. I feel like you're punishing me for what I said. I'm not punishing you, he replied. I'm responding. To what? To years of feeling like I didn't matter. Her voice rose. That's not fair. I tried. You tried when you were afraid, he interrupted. Not when I asked. She fell silent. I don't know what you expect from me, she said after a moment. Honesty, he said simply. Even if it's uncomfortable. Her jaw flexed. I'm being honest now. You're being desperate, Ethan said quietly. The words hung between them. She wiped her eyes. So you're just done? I don't know, he said again. But I'm not going back to pretending this is okay. Megan looked away, blinking rapidly. I didn't think it would get this bad. You didn't think I'd ever stop trying, Ethan corrected. They stood in the kitchen for a long time, neither moving. The next few days were full of small, strained interactions. She cooked his favorite meals. She asked if he wanted to watch a movie together. She even bought a new set of sheets for the guest bed and left them folded on the end of it. Ethan appreciated the gestures in a distant way, but he knew what was fueling them, fear, not love. One evening, he came home to find her sitting on the couch, scrolling through old photos on her phone again. He paused in the doorway. You okay? He asked. She nodded without looking up. Just remembering. Find anything worth saving? She hesitated. I don't know. Me either, Ethan said. Her shoulders slumped. On Saturday, her mother stopped by unannounced. He was in the garage when he heard their voices, low but tense. He's different, Megan said. Her mother sighed. You used to say he spoiled you. Megan didn't respond. Her mother continued, her voice softer. Maybe you took him for granted. Ethan felt no satisfaction in hearing that. Just a tired recognition that it was true. Later that night, she tried again to reach out. She knocked on the guest room door. Can I come in? She asked. Sure. She sat on the edge of the bed. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know I failed you. Ethan didn't rush to comfort her. Thank you for saying that. I want to fix this, she said. I know. But you don't believe me, she said quietly. He hesitated. I believe you regret where we ended up. I don't know if you regret what you did to get us here. She closed her eyes. I thought I was doing the right thing, setting boundaries. You were building walls, Ethan corrected. She didn't argue. That night, she didn't try to touch him. She just left quietly and closed the door behind her. The following week, she suggested counseling again. He told her he'd think about it. And he did, late at night, staring at the ceiling in the guest room, trying to picture what reconciliation would look like. But he kept coming up empty. It wasn't anger holding him back. It was the realization that he'd built a life with someone who only valued him when he was slipping away. The next Sunday, she tried one last effort. She cooked a full dinner, pot roast, mashed potatoes, warm bread. She set the table and lit a candle. When he walked in, she looked up hopefully. I thought we could have a nice dinner. Looks good, he said, sitting down. Halfway through the meal, she set her fork down. I miss you, she said simply. Ethan didn't look up. Do you miss me or the version of me that never needed anything? She swallowed. I miss who we were. I don't, he said softly. Her lip quivered. She didn't try to argue. After dinner, he stood. I think I need some space. She looked up sharply. Space. Time away. To figure out what's left, he said. She didn't fight. She just nodded, her face pale. That night, Ethan packed a small bag and left it by the front door. He didn't storm out. He didn't slam anything. When she came down the stairs and saw the bag, her eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, she whispered. He met her gaze. Me too. He didn't offer a promise to come back. He didn't make her any assurances he couldn't keep. He just stepped out the door into the quiet evening, feeling, for the first time in years, that he was finally choosing himself. Ethan didn't leave town or cut off all contact. He moved into a short-term rental about 15 minutes away. It was quiet, with no reminders of the life he'd spent over a decade building. He packed only what he needed: clothes, his laptop, a few books. He didn't take any photos. In the first week, Megan called every night. Sometimes she left messages asking him to come home. Other times, she didn't leave any words at all. Just a voicemail filled with static and breathing. He listened to a few, then stopped. He wasn't trying to be cruel. He just didn't see the point of rehearsing the same conversation when neither of them had anything new to say. The third evening he was gone. She texted, "I'm ready to do whatever it takes. Please let me prove it." He didn't reply right away. He read the message and set the phone face down on the counter. He made dinner for himself, a simple sandwich, and ate without distraction. For years, he'd felt an ache to be seen. Now, sitting alone, he felt something closer to relief. A few days later, Megan emailed him an appointment confirmation with a marriage counselor. She didn't ask if he'd attend, just sent the details. He read the email twice before closing it. He knew she was sincere. He knew she was scared. And he also knew he wasn't ready to step back into a version of their life he couldn't trust. On Saturday, he agreed to meet her at a coffee shop halfway between their addresses. He arrived early, ordered a coffee, and took a table by the window. He didn't feel nervous, just steady. Megan arrived 10 minutes late. She looked around, spotted him, and came over. She sat down carefully across from him. "Thank you for meeting me," she began. Ethan nodded. She folded her hands together. "I know I've said this already, but I'm sorry." "I know," he said. Her voice broke a little. "I don't expect you to just come back, but I need you to understand that I am willing to do anything. Counseling, therapy, whatever you ask." Ethan looked at her calmly. "I believe you. Then why does it feel like you're already gone?" she whispered. "Because you're trying to fix the ending," he said evenly. "But you still haven't looked at what led us here." Megan swallowed hard. "I was selfish. I thought I needed space to feel independent. I didn't see what it was doing to you. I told you how I felt," Ethan reminded her. "Many times." "I know," she admitted. "And I didn't listen." They were quiet a moment. Finally, she reached across the table, her hand hovering over his. "I'm asking for one chance to make this right." He didn't pull away, but he didn't close the distance either. "You say you're ready," Ethan said. "But are you ready to hear what it felt like? Are you ready to know that even if we try, it might not be enough?" "Yes," she said immediately. He nodded slowly. "Then I need time to decide if I can trust that." Her lips parted, but she didn't argue. She lowered her hand back to her lap. "I'll wait," she said finally. Ethan studied her face. There was no defiance left, no dismissiveness, just regret and uncertainty. He felt a flicker of something, maybe the memory of how it used to feel to love her without second-guessing. But it passed as quickly as it came. When they left the coffee shop, Megan hesitated on the sidewalk. "Can I call you?" "Yes," he said. "Will you answer?" "I don't know," he replied honestly. That night, he went back to the small rental. He sat on the couch and thought about all the times he'd been the one holding them together. The anniversaries he'd planned, the fights he'd tried to resolve, the loneliness he'd carried quietly because he believed love meant sacrificing. Now, he saw that sacrifice wasn't love if it was only flowing one way. The next week, Megan left a voicemail. Her voice sounded steadier. "I understand if you can't come home," she said. "But if you ever want to try again, I'm here. I'm not going to pretend this didn't happen." Ethan didn't call her back right away. He went to work, read in the evenings, and took long walks around the neighborhood. Each day, the need to fix everything grew a little dimmer. One evening, he ran into Amanda outside a grocery store. She looked startled to see him. "How are you holding up?" she asked carefully. "I'm okay," Ethan said. She hesitated, then said, "Megan is. She's realizing a lot. About herself. About you. About how she took you for granted." "I know," he said. Amanda nodded. "She thought you'd always be there." "I thought that too," he admitted. Before they parted, she looked at him as if she wanted to say something else but decided against it. Later that night, Ethan sat alone in the living room. He realized he didn't feel anger anymore, just a quiet acceptance. He wasn't sure if he and Megan would ever rebuild something lasting. But he knew one thing with certainty. He wouldn't trade the clarity he'd found for the comfort of pretending. A week later, he called her. She sounded surprised but relieved. "I don't know where this ends," he told her. "Neither do I," she said. "But for the first time," Ethan continued, "I'm okay with not knowing. They didn't promise anything. They didn't make plans. They simply agreed to keep talking. That was enough for now." In the end, it wasn't revenge that changed everything. It was letting her feel the absence she had created. And sometimes, the hardest lesson is learning that love doesn't survive when one person stops showing up. Ethan had spent years trying to be what she needed. Now, he was learning to be what he needed, whether she joined him in that or not.